Welcome. I'm Reverend Sue Browning. I am the minister who serves the Unitarian Universalist congregations in Easton, Maryland and in Chestertown, Maryland, both on the Eastern Shore. It is good to be together. So we're going to have a service today about rituals, and our Sunday gathering on its own is a form of ritual. It's routine, we do it weekly, and importantly, when we gather with intent, and that is part of rituals. Sometimes when we gather for rituals, we do so to shake ourselves up a bit, to try to figure out some of our hard questions. Other times we gather more in the spirit of comfort and reassurance, and virtually every week it's some combination of the two. Like so many rituals in our lives, our Sunday gathering is about heart. It's about finding that sense, that spiritual center in each of us. It's about renewal and gathering energy for the journey. If you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about either of our congregations, please check us out on our website, be in touch with me, be in touch with our offices. We would love to get to know you better. One of the rituals we have in many Unitarian Universalist congregations across the country is that we start our services by lighting a chalice. A chalice reminds us that we are gathered here as this community in a special way. So we light our chalice today in celebration of the rituals in our lives. We light our chalice today in gratitude for being together. Sometimes it does take a minute to get the light going. We are going to begin with a hymn today. Our hymn today is Morning Has Broken, and we invite you to participate in that hymn in whatever way is comfortable for you in these virtual settings.
Like
So, as I said, we're going to reflect on the role that rituals play in our lives. And as we plan the service, I've thought about rituals and traditions and transitions and celebrations. It all blurs together in many, many ways. Think of your 4th of July traditions. Maybe you have a barbecue and you go and watch fireworks. Maybe it's not the exact same ritual every year, but there is a way that you celebrate. You're aware of the red, white, and blue all around. There's a celebration of both the country, often family or friends are gathering, and there's that sense we have that this makes it 4th of July. Some rituals, they help us move from one part in our life to another part in our lives. Sometimes we call those rites of passage. And I think here about graduations. Graduations are the ceremonies. And we have the square mortarboard hats and the tradition of pomp and circumstance music. And here's the thing about the ceremony. You begin the ceremony, you don't have, let's say, your high school diploma. And when it's all over, when there is the place that there's been speeches and you've moved the tassel from one side to the other, you come out on the other side of the ceremony as a high school graduate. For the wedding, when I do a wedding, the couple starts that day. They are not married, and then there's the pronouncement of marriage during the service, and then they are a married couple. I was considering different rituals, and one of the ones that I was thinking about were birthdays. It's something that we all share, and if you think about that, you're 7 years old when you go to bed one night, you wake up the next morning and you're 8. So there's a transition right there. And so I asked some of our younger learners, what is it that's important to them about birthdays? So hopefully I've got everybody's here. Eamon shared, I like the royalties, being honored. The, oh my gosh, it's your birthday-ness part of the celebration. Fiona offered that the cake is best, presents are a close second. Logan shared, I like growing older, doing special things and feasts and gifts. As a family, we believe in special occasions. Gabriella said, my favorite part is seeing the look on my friends' faces when they see the awesome gift that I got them. Eve shared, my favorite part of birthdays is the piñata. I make piñata for all my animals' birthdays, too. And finally, Fante shared, my favorite part of birthdays is being able to make German chocolate cake with coffee frosting. My dad makes dinner for my birthday. And this year for my twin brother's birthday, we had lasagna and I made Smith Island cake. I really want to find out more about the coffee frosting. Clearly, that is right up my alley. But I asked our learners another question. What is it? Why do we bother celebrating events? And here's some of what I heard. We celebrate events because it marks the beginning of something good that has happened on that day. We celebrate to recognize something important. We celebrate to make people feel loved and appreciated and to be proud of them. For all of us, the birthday ritual, it varies with time. I'm pretty sure those of us that are older are not having the same birthday celebrations we did when we were children, yet the essence of a ritual, the purpose, the why we have a ritual is still there. We need to make people feel loved and appreciated, and we need that same for ourselves. There's a place of honor. There's a place that ritual plays in our lives that gives us a really good excuse to have cake very often. So that's a perspective from our kids. I asked Kim Agee, who's a member in the Chestertown congregation, to share something about rituals from her perspective as a parent.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's well. I miss you all. I am here this morning to share a bit about my experience with rituals as a parent. How did rituals fit into my role as a parent? And how did they affect our lives as a family? I think I could go on and on about this, So I've chosen 3. I've limited myself to 3 to share with you this morning. So as parents, Willie and I wanted to cultivate a certain spiritual path for our children that was very centered in nature. It started when they were infants, actually. My husband and I wanted to have a welcoming or a blessing type ceremony for our newborn children, and we wanted that to be connected to the earth somehow. We decided to welcome them and announce our devotion to them by introducing them to the sun with a prayer. And this was a practice we had read about in Native American cultures. We got up very early and went out for the sunrise with our naked firstborn child, Annie. We introduced her by her full name and shared a prayer of devotion aloud, the 2 of us. We did this part of the blessing with just us, Willie and myself and Annie, and then we celebrated with our family later on in the day. For Alice, we did this again, only we brought Annie with us. So we brought our naked Alice, introduced her to the sun, and Annie was there as well. My children don't remember this, and I need to share it with them more so that they have a story memory of it. But Willie and I do remember it. We were together, we were committed, and in agreement about this blessing. We chose it together. In retrospect, I think this helped to solidify really our togetherness in this whole parenting endeavor. And I hope to pass this ritual on to my girls if they decide to have children later on. The second ritual is grace. Many people say grace before they eat, and I wanted to have this ritual with my girls. I wanted them to recognize the need for gratitude for all that they were blessed with. I chose the following prayer from the Jewish tradition of Passover, and it's a piece of a prayer, really. And I chose this with intention. The words are really special to me. And it goes like this. We give thanks to the lives that were ended to nourish our own, for all life is sacred and holy, deserving of respect and dignity. May we merit their sacrifice and honor their sparks of holiness through our acts of loving kindness. I chose this prayer because I wanted the girls to understand that when they were blessed with food, there was a natural sacrifice involved. I wanted them to know that they did not have to feel guilty for eating, but that gratitude and a compassionate path through life were the requirements of such blessings. They do both know this prayer by heart, and I don't know that they use it on a daily basis, but they do know it. I hope it comes to mind as they travel through life, and something I do know is that as I watch them grow into adults, I see them following that path of gratitude and compassion, and I'm proud of that for them, so proud. The third ritual is one that I also think many families have, and that is to take a vacation together. My father took my sisters and I every summer for vacation to an island called Monhegan Island, a tiny little island, dirt roads. At the time, there was no electricity there, very few vehicles, very quiet place, a sacred place to my sisters and I. Willie and I began visiting my father on Monhegan before our girls were even born, and we have continued that tradition every year to today, and the girls come with us. We all find this quiet and natural place restorative, and we look forward to our time together there, hiking and resting. I think my girls seek this kind of solace for restoration in their regular lives as well. I know Willie and I do, and I'm glad. So, thank you for letting me share these with you this morning. Writing this summary has reminded me what a simple ritual potentially has to offer. So for me this morning, commitment, reminders of gratitude, and restorative practices. Amen. See you soon.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Eamon. It is so wonderful to have Eamon doing our music today, to have someone from the younger generation leading us. So we've heard about stories about birthdays, and Kim shared about the welcome ritual they had with their daughters and about their practices on grace at meals and annual trips. All of these cases are reminding us it takes intent to celebrate the ritual. So rituals may include practices of welcoming or practices of union or remembrance or goodbyes. We move through the transitions, some of the transitions I was thinking about that are smaller first, like when you first ride a two-wheeler bike and you have that moment where you're not riding, and I just remember taking off, where you go for your road test when you get your driver's license and you come out a licensed driver. In all of these moments, there is emotion. Sometimes it's profound joy, sometimes it's profound sadness, sometimes it is surprise. And sometimes the emotion is a much more gentle feeling, a much more of a settling in. I was thinking of the grace that Kim talks about telling before meals. So what is it that we are asking of ourselves in these ritual moments? And what are we asking of others? I think it's interesting that Kim shared that when they had their ritual with Annie and Alice when they were born, the babies didn't know what was going on, but the ritual served as a point of focus for she and her husband, and then eventually for she and her husband and their little girl. So sometimes we come to these moments as the honoree, and sometimes we're around that person. In all cases, we're feeling something. We're finding our places of connection as a community. Author Robert Fulghum, he's the guy who wrote Everything You Ever Wanted to Know You Learned in Kindergarten, who's also a Unitarian minister. He thinks of ritual as a way to put a frame around a moment. So I ask us as we go through this morning and think about rituals, what are our many hats we wear at these times, whether we're child or parent, friend or mentor or lover? How do we help one another pay attention to these moments? So our next reflection is from Easton members Judy and Jack Harold.
The rites of passage of youth are marked by formal rituals and events. The passages of aging are often less visible, but are no less important in defining our roles, our purposes, our values.
I am reminded of the cartoon of an autograph-seeking boy asking an old man at the Baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, "Hey, mister, didn't you used to be somebody?" The answer, of course, is we are all still somebodies as we age, even if society tends to paint a passive and vague picture of senior citizens or the elderly spending their golden years in a place for mom.
Jack and I have had the privilege of growing up together and spending the last 56 years building and sustaining a marriage, raising our 2 daughters, Kristen and Ingrid, and completing rewarding careers. The transition from that life to our current life has its own milestones, some of which were defined by external events, others by our own design.
The events that help define our current somebodies we have become include
Becoming grandparents.
the biggest and greatest event of all. We were 57 when our granddaughter Dana arrived and 59 when our grandson Davis joined the family.
The next event was turning 60. This birthday was a challenge for us, and we decided to meet it head on by denying that we were really that old. We joined with another couple, also turning 60 in full denial, and set off to trek an isolated area of Nepal for 3 weeks.
A memorable and life-changing experience, but when we came back we were still 60. Retirement was next up. This was a clean break for Judy, since leaving her job at Treasury Department at age 67 required her to terminate her security clearance.
Jack's retirement from academia was phased out over 7 more years until he retired at 72 while still dabbling at consulting. The next milestone was working at TIS. We have both volunteered at TIS from its beginning. Jack's years on the TIS board and the experience of being board president during the legal struggle to purchase Easton's Promise accelerated our sense of belonging on the Eastern Shore.
Next up was our 50th wedding anniversary. In 2014 we had the opportunity to celebrate and reflect on the work, the worries, and joys of spending 50 years together, and we met with our family and friends at a Claiborne Village Hall gala event.
A life-changing diagnosis. 2014 was an eventful year.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a slowly progressing degenerative condition. The diagnosis led to the discovery of the world of the Parkinson's communities, the groups, the support groups, the exercise programs, and research, and has become a defining part of my life.
It also put into motion the planning process that resulted in our leaving our wonderful village of Claiborne for the supportive environment of Londonderry.
Next up was the 50th birthday. For some reason, the fact that our youngest child was turning 50 took us by surprise and seemed to us to be a very important milestone for us all to celebrate.
Unfortunately, the coronavirus canceled a planned family gathering in Barcelona. We had to substitute with an amazing Zoom party for 21 people in 5 time zones.
Now the pandemic, we are all sharing a major life experience. We are all in this together, but each of us will individually be challenged and changed by our own experience during the time of the coronavirus.
flowers gone. Long time passing, where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago, where have all the flowers gone? Young girls picked them, every one. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the young girls gone? Long time passing, where have all the young girls gone? Long time ago, where have all the young girls gone? Gone to husbands, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the young men gone? Long time passing, where have all the young men gone? Long time ago, where have all the young men gone? Gone to soldiers, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the soldiers gone? Long time passing, where have all the soldiers gone? Long time ago, where have all the soldiers gone? Gone to graveyards, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time passing, where have all the graveyards gone? Long time ago, where have all the graveyards gone? Gone to flowers, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
So thank you, Judy and Jack, and thank you, Dave, for the music. So for me, high school and college happened in the 1970s. I entered college right on the wake of Watergate, and the Vietnam withdrawal happened right after I got to school. So as my class approached our various milestone events, we were left from messages from those in the late 1960s that graduation ceremonies were not worth our time, that marriage was optional. It really served no function. And we recall all this sort of as a background din, a warning that we should distrust government and corporations and just institutions generally. At least that was what I was taking in as a teen. It was what was in some of the popular media. It was in the music. There was this message that it would be cool if we would dismiss rituals. It was part of rejecting the establishment. But graduations kept being held almost every year. There is a year in 1970 where a lot of graduations were canceled, and weddings were held. And a lot of us entered military careers or long corporate careers. These were jobs that came with benefits and good pensions. And some did skip their graduation, and we have a few of our friends are in long-term relationships that have chosen never to marry. There was something that was dampened in the rituals, even though a lot of it continued. And I know in the Unitarian Universalist churches around the 1970s, you would not have had joys and sorrows or chalice lightings. But birthday parties and vacations kept happening. And I think there's just an underlying need we all have to be in celebration and to be in the cycle of ritual and acknowledgement of things. And so it drifted back. The pendulum swung back, and I know in the early 1980s, I think it was 1981, many of us watched Charles and Diana get married. And I am a ritual junkie, and I just loved watching that. There was just this hunger to have some ritual and celebration in some way to honor each milestone. So I am a list maker, and I went ahead and made a list of as many rituals and rites of passage and everything I could come up with. I came up with 90. I'm virtually sure with your help I can come up with 100, but I included on this list, if you want to get yourself thinking on how you could give me the last 10 to make it up to 100, I included holidays. Some of the holidays are secular, some of them are religious. Some of them were tied to the first of events, some of the things I mentioned earlier. And then there's proms, year-end class parties. Military, some folks complete boot camp. They are commissioned as officers. We have rituals when somebody becomes, and we recognize new Unitarian Universalists that join our congregation and sign the book. I was thinking about Christmas Eve and Eve of Eve celebrations and singing Silent Night. But there's also rituals of going to vote and the practices of leadership transitions and retirements. So I challenge you, go ahead and list them. I think your list will grow quickly. Some of these times, as I said, we're in the center. Sometimes we're one gathered at the event. We're helping make the event special by being the audience or the congregation. Sometimes we're fairly far out. We realize that we had a very small role as we watch our neighbor's kid graduate from school or get married. Or you're a teacher and you have the honor of watching some student that you know struggled graduate. Often during rituals, we dress for the moment. It might be bathing suits in the summer. It might be that we get dressed up and we dance. We dust off, and these are times that we take pictures and we dance. And we come out of the ritual, whatever it is, with some fresh understanding. Something that's sort of hard to describe a bit more deeply. We're often touched, we laugh, we cry, and this happens whether we're in the center or we're part of those watching. In his book, From Beginning to End, The Rituals of Our Lives, Robert Fulghum notes that ritual behavior softens the phases of life when we are reminded how hard it is to be human. And ritual behavior enriches the phases of life when we are reminded how fine it is to be human. So I think back to the 1970s, that pull that I had of wanting to participate in the ritual and the sense of it not being cool. When I didn't participate, I did have regrets. So we each made our own choices then, and parents and grandparents were to be considered. It wasn't all about me or about you. There was pride in others as we went through these times of acknowledgement, as we entered new stages. But choices were to be made, and we could decide how we were going to do it. So as I reviewed and I looked over the list of 90 events, and I'm really recognizing that in 2020, in May of 2020, many of these traditional ways of honoring events and cycles are on hold. There is no choice that we can make about attending the event. Many events have been canceled. Activities tied to sports seasons and recitals and concerts are just gone this year. Some events have been postponed for a year or more. I know that's the case for our son and his fiance's wedding. It will happen now in 2021. And many events that were canceled in their traditional form. They're being reimagined. And so we hear of a lot of these creative adaptations to assure not only the honoree and the honored that these events still matter. We are working hard on these adaptations. I know I saw some glimpses this week on Facebook of how Easton High School is working to make sure not only that each graduate is honored, but that their family has a way to be a part of the clips that they're putting together, and then there will be a sense of the whole. Because I think it's when we get that sense of the whole of everything coming together that we have that emotional tie. So we adapt and we adjust, but I do want to name, this is hard. Much has been canceled or dramatically modified. That feeling of a good party, that shared smell and taste of cake, that letting loose, those natural hugs that just happen, those huge group pictures, they just can't happen right now in the traditional way. And we're going to miss those parts. And there is a cumulative impact, I think, my friends. There is an impact of having everything shut down at once, everything disappearing from our calendars or disappearing and being replaced with Zoom events. Good events, but different ones. But I think what we're asked to do now is bring forward the essence of the ritual in the way we can, to make space for the emotion, the heart part, to recognize not just when you're in the center, but to take that time to set up a FaceTime call with a niece that you may have been able to attend her graduation. Make sure the card gets off. Make sure that there's still a recognition that you, as the person in witness, are also experiencing the loss. It's a chance to be intentional in these moments because we do wear many hats. These are the foundations in our life. They're really, really important foundations. We are going to find a path. We're going to figure out the ways to pick up the essence of the ritual. And I bring us back to what our kids told us earlier. We celebrate events because they mark something good that has happened that day. We celebrate to recognize something important. We celebrate to make people feel loved or appreciated and to be proud of them. I think they've got the essence of what we need to lift forward and move forward in these rituals. For the many ways we celebrate our lives, we are grateful. And now I ask us to shift gears. Doing this today at the end of the service, a ritual, but something that I moved a little bit later. I invite you now into a time of reflection, a time of meditation. Take a moment as you gather what rituals mean to you. Take a moment to gather in your heart all those who are crossing thresholds this season. Take a moment to collect your wishes for those close to you, and those in your wider community ready to be celebrated. So we offer this as a shared blessing. These words are by Jill Ann Terwilliger. For the longing that told you it was time for a change, we give you our blessings. For the courage it took to answer the call, we give you our blessings. For choices already made, and for the daily choices that will shape the life ahead of you, we give you our blessings. For the communities that have shown you who you are, and the communities waiting to discover you in your new ventures, we give you our blessings. For the great mystery of what lies ahead, we give you our blessings. May you see something of beauty along your way. May you touch hands and hearts with those you love. For the many rituals withhold us, we are grateful. Amen, and blessed be. And finally today, we complete with our joys and sorrows. I've got a few that folks have called in, or emailed in rather, And I also offer you space to bring in all the unspoken joys and sorrows that we have with us today. If you have joys and sorrows during this time of virtual services, please email them to me by noon on Friday, and we'll include them in the service. And I'm going to go ahead and light the candles, and then I'll read out what they are for today. We do, as we have done each week over the last weeks of virtual services, we light this first candle for the victims of the COVID virus, those who are sick, those who have recovered, the medical teams, the first responders, the essential workers, all who are helping make us safe. And we also honor the challenges of the transitions that we're being asked to make as we figure out what reopening means. Our next candle, Nina asks us to light a candle for her friend Janet, who delivered twins very early a few weeks ago. We send our love to this new family. We send our good wishes. We light a candle that John shares this. It's for real pleasure for me to have gotten to know some of the UUFE members while we work together in the virtual world. When we are able to move back in the real world, I would like to have an official name tag from UUFE. I will treasure it always. We got you, John. We're good. And finally, a joy from Emily, Todd, Linda, and Linda, whose household in Easton now includes a new puppy named Ruby Pearl. The family picked up Ruby last week, and she is just over 8 weeks old. And I quote here from Emily, she slept through the night for the last 2 nights. So a joy in the puppy and a joy in the sleeping through. We're going to end our time of reflection with music. I ask you to find a stillness. If you happen to have a hymnal, it is hymn number 252, as we take a moment to hold the joys and sorrows we've heard and those that remain in our hearts. So we are winding down our time to get together today. On announcements, I do ask the members of the congregation to read the letter we sent out Friday. We are looking at the letter that the governor sent out. We have some additional flexibility, but we do not plan to meet other than virtually, at least through the summer. So please check out the letter, and we will move forward as a congregation together as we make decisions. But for the foreseeable future, we are having virtual services. The letter, for others who are interested, it will also be on our website. And generally, if you have questions during this time of not meeting in person, please check with me, check with your boards, ask through the office. We really want to hear from you and stay in touch so we know what's needed out there. So we lit our chalice today in the celebration of the many rituals in our lives. We extinguish our chalice, recognizing the many rituals in our lives. We lit our chalice this morning in gratitude for being together. We extinguish our chalice in gratitude for being together. Go in peace. Go in love. Go knowing love surrounds you wherever you may go. In gratitude to the many who helped with our service today and to the tech team who continues to support our work. See you next week.